Silent Hill is a fictional rural town in a fictional version of Maine. It is a town covered in monsters and manifestations of trauma, where tormented people get drawn to like moths to flames. Each person sees Silent Hill differently, the town morphing itself to become the physical form of a person's mental trauma. Our main character we follow throughout the second game in the Silent Hill series is named James Sunderland. In the beginning of the game, James Sunderland arrives at Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his wife, Mary, stating that she was waiting for him somewhere inside the town in their special place. This would have been a very simple plot for the game, having the objective of finding your wife in a monster-filled town. But the thing is, Mary died 3 years ago. To introduce James as a character, you have to spoil the entire plot of the game. James Sunderland is a man plagued by depression and grief, running through Silent Hill battling enemies to find his supposed-to-be dead wife. I say supposed to be because James Sunderland, who goes through an entire 22-hour game looking for Mary, is revealed at the end of the game to have murdered her. Mary became bedridden by some unspecified illness, but likely a form of cancer, and because of her declining health, James suffocated her with a pillow while she slept, killing her. Fans of Silent Hill love James Sunderland, praising him as a well-designed and realistic character, cosplaying him, making fan art, and even creating thirst edits of him over on TikTok. You have to wonder why though. James is an intensely misogynistic and sexist character, who we as players should not be rooting for. Yet fans of the game often look past that or even ignore it. The game and its creator are keenly aware of James's behavior, yet there's no point in the story where it condemns James for it. James may apologize for his behavior, but there is no clear statement saying that James's behavior itself is wrong, and that has led to him, as a character, getting away with his actions. And since fans ignore his actions, I want to make why he is a terrible person very clear. James has a strong sexist viewpoint when interacting with the female characters in the game, seeing these characters as needing to be saved, a sort of damsel in distress situation, whether that is his wife or a random woman he meets in Silent Hill. In technical terms, James has a form of sexism we can call benevolent sexism. The journal Benevolent and Hostile Sexism in Social Spheres, by these various names on screen, describe this form of sexism as emphasizing men's role to protect and provide for women, granted in exchange for a woman's compliance to traditional gender roles, instigated through paternal and traditional beliefs that perceive women as delicate and precious, therefore in need of protection provided by men. There are 3 prominent female characters that James is sexist towards, so let's start with Angela. Angela is a 19-year-old girl who goes to Silent Hill in search of her mother. Angela is a sexual abuse victim and survivor. She is stated to have been raped by her own father. James meets her in Silent Hill and practically inserts himself into her life. Angela does not trust James, does not follow him around when asked, and does not need his protection. Yet James appoints himself as her protector, believing he alone can save her, whether it is from the monsters in Silent Hill or from her suicidal thoughts. His belief leads into a boss fight, a manifestation of Angela's trauma known as Abstract Daddy. James kills this manifestation and believes that Angela is saved, yet that does not matter in the end as she succumbs to her declining mental state and kills herself. Her suicide proving to James that his actions meant nothing because he never wanted to actually help her, he just wanted to be the one to save her. James continues not to learn from Angela's death when he encounters Maria, another woman he proceeds to project his sexist beliefs and views onto. But Maria is not a real person. She is a manifestation of what James wanted his wife to be more like. Maria is more sexually praising and provocative than Mary, dressing in a way that shows a lot more skin than what his wife would normally wear, objectifying his wife even after her death. She heightens his masculinity by commenting on his strength. You can argue that Maria is a physical embodiment of James's benevolent sexism. She constantly is asking James to protect her and save her from the monsters in Silent Hill. And because Maria comes from James's mind, she becomes the damsel in distress he so badly projects onto women. Now we finally get to talk about Mary. James is also sexist towards her. Her illness itself showing another truth of James's view towards women, that they are only useful if they are able-bodied enough to keep up the performance of a caretaker. He sees Mary in that narrow-minded view of traditional gender roles for wives, a viewpoint that does not allow women to be anything more than a homemaker. Mary's murder stems from that sexist belief. Since Mary could no longer perform her wifely duties while sick, James had to become the caretaker in their relationship. Fred Hutchinson's Cancer Research Center states that a woman is 6 times more likely to be separated or divorced soon after a diagnosis of cancer than if a man in the relationship is the patient. James says that Mary died 3 years ago, yet in reality, she was murdered just a week ago in the timeline of the game. James viewed his relationship with Mary as dead as soon as she was diagnosed, casting his love and devotion to her aside, all because she became sick and could not perform his idea of the role of a wife anymore. He killed Mary out of selfishness, not to save her from her sickness. James states that,
I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
Implying his sickly wife was getting in the way of him living his life now that she was useless to him. James's misogyny is clearly seen through the enemies of the game. Ewan Kirkland, in his amazing article, Masculinity in Video Games, The Gendered Gameplay of Silent Hill, states that such portion in the game may be perceived as video game misogyny, which features a male protagonist killing creatures of monstrous femininity. All the monsters in the game that are not boss battles that progress the narrative are all female presenting, meaningless enemies that only block your way and have no further purpose other than to brutalize. These female-presenting monsters are all manifestations of how James views women, their designs representing his misogyny. The enemy called the mannequins represent how James constantly sexualizes and objectifies women, seeing them only as their reproductive areas and legs. The enemies called mandarins and lying figures, while representing Mary while she was in the depths of her sickness, are still sexualized female bodies, especially the lying figures who appear to have on heels and bare legs. The bubblehead nurses that you encounter at the hospital are implied to be representations of James potentially cheating on his wife with a nurse while she was in the hospital. It also represents his sexual frustrations and desires when his wife was unable to have sex with him while ill. Again, their designs are sexualized. Red Pyramid Thing, or Pyramid Head as most people call him, is a male-presenting enemy that you fight that actually does impact the narrative. It is important to mention him because he is a manifestation of how James views masculinity. When we are first introduced to Pyramid Head, we see him mimicking sexual assault on a mannequin monster. The movements are very clearly erotic. Pyramid Head is the embodiment of his misogynistic beliefs of true masculinity being sexual violence, or violence in general against women. James is inherently misogynistic, stereotyping and viewing women as sexual objects, and promoting the ideals of toxic masculinity. After all this, we come back to the idea of Silent Hill 2 not condemning the misogynistic and sexist actions and behaviors of James Sunderland. After James kills Mary again in the final boss fight, you are rewarded with one of the multiple endings depending on how you played, none of which punish James for his actions. There's an ending where he leaves Silent Hill, or where he continues his life with Maria as his replacement for Mary, or even one where he pretends that Mary was never sick at all. No punishment for his actions in sight. There are really only 2 endings that show that James regrets his actions, one of which shows that he killed himself out of guilt. There are even some joke endings. How does a UFO or a dog controlling everything ending fit in with such a serious topic as a man getting away with the murder of his disabled wife? Not only do none of these endings condemn his actions, but none of them show James as a bad man, allowing fans to praise his character and ignore his behavior. If you need further evidence of how Silent Hill continues to ignore the suffering of women, look no further than Silent Hill 3, a game with a female protagonist and narrative about how it is to grow up as a woman, which puts the spotlight on a cult plot. Konami, the company behind Silent Hill, has a clear history of treating its female characters like trash. Metal Gear Solid is another franchise released by Konami, where countless female characters are sexualized or killed to be used as motivation for male characters. All that being said, I am not forcing people to outwardly state their hatred for James Sunderland, but there has to be something said on a game like Silent Hill 2 not outwardly denouncing actions of misogyny and allowing for a character like James to get away with his actions scot-free in the minds of fans. What kind of space are you creating for female players if the followers of your game actively show their support for a sexist murderer by drawing him or dressing up as him for Halloween? Certainly not a safe one. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or concerns, leave them in the comments below.